The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
My question without notice is to the Prime Minister. I ask the Prime Minister, now that you've undertaken to support the GST legislation, will you also give a commitment to support our IR policy as announced in JobsPact?
Mr. Speaker,
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me make this clear. That very clear, very clear.
Order.
If the Leader of the Opposition thinks, or if the cynics in the Liberal Party think, that you can go to a national election saying vote for Hewson but the GST won't get up. Because I know, but others in your party have said it, and more hope it, we're making it abundantly clear that even though we regard it as an inequitable and vile tax that attacks the living standards of all Australians.
There is far too much noise. The member for Moral
the Australian electorate, because we are first and foremost Democrats,
I warn the member for Groom.
If the Australian electorate, in the unhappy event, give you a majority in the House of Representatives for it, then the Labor opposition in the Senate would not obstruct its passage. Now that's what we're making
Order.
plain. We are not supporting a GST. We will never support a GST, and we'll do everything to stop a GST. Now, Mr. Speaker, on industrial relations, you, at this stage, have not articulated what amounts to a coordinated policy. We don't know what your policy is. You told us you were going to give us a bill. We haven't seen the bill. Where is the bill? Where's the bill? Where's the bill? We know what there is in principle in the GST, but where's the bill? But if the Leader of the Opposition thinks he's seeking from me or the Labor Party a blank cheque for anything that may be rattling around his head, he can forget it.
I warn the member for McMillan.
But in relation to what he's made abundantly clear, in relation to the GST, and him feigning indignation about Senate obstructionism, while a couple of weeks ago telling us that he'd have a double dissolution within weeks of a House of Representatives election to secure passage for a GST at a joint sitting, and have Senator Coulter do his bidding in the electorate saying vote for us and we'll stop the GST, and the public believing they can vote for the Liberal Party and not get the GST, well, Mr. Speaker, we're making it clear that in the event, just as we saw in the United States with President Bush yesterday, in his gracious speech where he conceded power to President Clinton, he talked about the majesty of democracy and the will of the people, and the people of America having spoken. I want the people of Australia to speak against these sort of inequitable policies. That's what we're arguing for, to speak clearly against these sort of policies. But if they decide in their wisdom that they want these policies, we will not, in an undemocratic way, stand in their way. But nor will the Leader of the Opposition hide from the consequences of his policies. Nor will the Liberal Party say, you can elect us because the GST won't get up. The fact is, if they elect you, the GST will get up. And if the GST gets up, it'll be the biggest attack on Australian living standards in modern times. It'll be the biggest change in the way in which the Australian family and Australian life functions. And there'll be no backsliding for you, no clever advertisements, no cynicism from Mr Robb, no whispering campaign that you can vote for you and not get it. If they vote for you, they'll get it as surely as someone will get influenza standing in the cold. They'll get it. They'll get it. So, Mr Speaker, we're making it plain now, because this question will be asked later in this cycle. Where would the Labor Party stand in the unlikely and unhappy event? That is, we will not stand in the way of Australian public opinion and Australian electoral mandate. We're not the we're not the people who nearly wrecked our constitution in 1975, who turned the place nearly into civil strife by failing to pass the budget of a duly elected government in the House of Representatives. We're not the wreckers who seek to turn our governments by the illegitimate operation of this unrepresentative chamber. We are not that party. That party is the Liberal Party. That party is the Liberal Party. And we make it clear that that chamber, unrepresentative as it is, and now voting as a party house, not as a states house, as the deputy leader indicated yesterday when the deputy leader in the House of Representatives announced the Senate membership of a Senate committee. It proved just how transparent is the party nature and the party shenanigans going on in what is not a representative chamber but an unrepresentative chamber, a very unrepresentative chamber. An unrepresentative— no, I told you I want to do you slowly, and slowly you will be done. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Liberal Party in its cynicism, in its high cynicism, in the 1970s nearly tore the fabric of this country apart, only saved by, again, the good sense and sense of nationalism of the Labor Party and the Labor movement, because lesser parties would have gone right for you. And you know what I mean by that. Now, Mr. Speaker, in this chamber we have never used and sought to use the Senate for the shabby purposes which the opposition is now using it. That is, kangaroo courts, defamatory attacks on principal public servants like Mr Boucher, kangaroo courts like the motion we're talking about, like yesterday. Having a Senate inquiry into one transaction in the large transactions of the global limits, when as a party you're prepared to see them hemorrhage all over the place, prepared to see states' financial control by the Loan Council of States Authorities' borrowings hemorrhage to the tune of 75% of states' borrowings. And then with feigned indignation and umbrage you get over there and want to set up a committee, one of the committee members of which says that it's a cover-up before she even hears 1 ounce of the evidence. That's the sort of kangaroo courts that the Senate's setting up. That's the sort of kangaroo court it was in 1975. But what we're saying, we won't be the wreckers in Australia, in the Australian constitutional system. We won't push the system to the limits of its constitutional tolerance. We'll observe, as always,
the member for Moore
as
interjects
the Labor
again, I'll
Party has
name him.
always done, the courtesies, the constitutional courtesies, to the letter and the spirit. But having senators who stand every day committing calumny and detraction, defamations under privilege, censure me for daring to say of them that they don't operate as a proper place of review and that they don't operate properly, only indicates just how paltry members of the coalition in the Senate are.
The Leader of the Opposition will cease interjecting.
Mr Speaker, let me make it quite clear there will be no slithering and sliding and backsliding and hiding by the Leader of the Opposition. When he lifts a rock, I'll either be under it or I've been there. I'll be there chasing him down wherever he tries to go. And he knows that he's saddled up, and the Liberal Party of Australia knows they're saddled up with the goods and services tax. And no pantomime in here about questions about loan borrowings in Victoria. It's going to save your two miserable hides. The fact is, you've got it branded on you, just as though you turned up to a cattle branding, because I'm quite sure branded on you are the 3 words, 3 letters: G full stop, S full stop, T full stop.